Hello and welcome. We're just making sure that everything is set up. We are a bit earlier than usual. Of course. Well, let's see. As you may know, we've been having some technical issues recently, and it is all working, at least somewhat, and that's good enough. It is, of course, Solo Tabletop RPG Day. Not some sort of special day, but, the day we run the Solo Tabletop RPG. We are a bit early, and by a bit, about 2 hours early. But that's because I have an Imperial meeting later. Well, a diplomatic meeting. Less Imperial, more diplomatic. So, well, I thought we'd start early so so I have the full amount of time. But I might still have to go abruptly. But hopefully, as we're starting 2 hours early, we'll have the time. This is, of course, following the adventures of our mercenary, Juliana Aldis. We'll see where she goes and what she does. We actually have a mission currently, and we're going to take it rather slow, but this mission should be interesting. We have a race car driver that we are to intimidate into losing the race. So we'll see how that goes. Just preparing some water and our dice. Okay. Let's see. So to begin, let's zoom out a little bit. Oh, this is our racetrack we worked on last time on our World Building Wednesday stream. Not the best of the World Building Wednesday streams, but it sure was a stream. I do quite like the map, however. So, yes, at least that came out of the stream. Let's see. Probably could have made more stands, I'll be honest. But we have what we have. Let's quickly go over Juliana Aldis's sheet, as I do want to remember what we have and all that. I know we waited a day in-game to rest up and all that, and we have like 1 day more before the race. Anyway, let's bring up the sheet. Here we are. Okay. Mm-hmm. So nothing exceptional. Do you have any mind-affecting spells? We might not use any, but I'm just curious, because we are supposed to convince someone of something. We do. We do. That could be useful, maybe. We'll see. What else? Hmm. Well, that's about most of it. I mean, I'm not sure why we're supposed to convince someone to lose. I'll be honest. I mean, we accepted the contract. I know why we're supposed to, because we accepted the contract. I'm sure there's something about money and bets going on with it. I mean, why else would we convince someone to throw a race? But I mean, we were the wrong person to accept the job, let's be honest. 0 impress, 0 intimidate, 0 manipulate, 0 networking. You know, like, we're not really prepared for this, but, you know. We don't even have sense motive. We do have resolve, though. So we are relatively steadfast in our ability to sort of deflect being, what's the word I'm looking for? Let's actually just open the thing and double check. I know that resolve is used in concentration checks and morale checks, but it's also used to resist impress, I believe. Let's check. Here we are. Resist impress, resist intimidate, and morale and concentration, yeah. I mean, it's important to have it, but it's exceptionally important for casters because a lot of things that disrupt casting involve a resolve check to concentrate. Let's see. So, I mean, we're really not the best for this, but I'm sure we can find a way. Luckily, the way this works, at least, well, in general, is we here at Galactic Requiem try to simulate a world, well, a universe specifically, well, more so a galaxy, but a universe. I mean, the Empire, my Empire. I mean, I don't run the Empire, but you know, the Empire I'm a part of is multidimensional. Not that that comes up a lot. It really doesn't. I mean, other than in very rare instances, it's really just we come from another realm and arrived here and all that, and occasionally references, but you know, not really important. I lost my train of thought. I got sidetracked with the Empire. Let's see. Yes, simulating a universe. Generally, even if we don't have good intimidate, the act of being in heavy combat armor and holding an assault rifle is considered relatively intimidating to your average individual. Despite us having no intimidate skill, we would get a bonus because of that. If we're dealing with your average individuals, even if you're dealing with military individuals, they might be less inclined to be intimidated by that, just by that simple fact. But they would be more cautious, of course, because somebody in heavy combat armor is, well, it's not a light thing to deal with. Heavy combat armor is the base, well, at least the heaviest of heavy combat armors, which is what we're wearing. I mean, of course, they're slightly heavier than what we're wearing, but what we're wearing is genuinely the base of powered armor. I say the base of powered armor. Light power armor is on par with heavy combat armor, at least the type we're wearing, with UC AC-10, DR-10. That is what you get with light powered armor. Light powered armor, however, of course, increases your strength, depending on what kind of modifications you have. Could increase your movement speed and give you more health. I say health, what I mean is armor. Powered armor, well, even light powered armor, has some plates on it that increase, well, it basically adds armor that's depleted before health. So, of course, light powered armor is better than heavy combat armor. But, of course, like the base that light powered armor is built on is heavy combat armor. They have the same AC, the same DR. They're basically for the most part, honestly, pretty much the same armor, just with additional plates added to it for health and additional modifications for strength and movement and all that. I mean, if you want really cheap powered armor, you can buy heavy combat armor and attach a, what is it called? Exoskeleton. Just a really light, strength enhancing exoskeleton, which will enhance your strength. And you have, well, power armor. Not really. It's lighter than even light power armor, but you get my point. You'll pretty much light power armor if you get a exoskeleton on there, minus the additional health and the possible other benefits like speed and all that. Of course, like, there are tiers, and theoretically you could just literally build out heavy combat armor to be light power armor. I mean, it's going to be slightly worse, let's be honest. But only slightly. Like, technically, if you put an exoskeleton over your heavy combat armor, and then put plates on top of that exoskeleton that provide health, you basically very much have light powered armor. However, your more advanced light power armors have the servos and exoskeleton bits essentially built into the armor itself, as opposed to outside of the armor, then a layer of armor on top of that. Then there's, of course, specifically tiers. For instance, high-grade light power armor has, I believe, DR15 as opposed to DR10, which is better, etc., etc. But that's what's that is what's great. I quite enjoy the modularity of our systems. I'm still not entirely happy with vehicles, like the underlying health and all that. I haven't fully tested on new vehicle system updates for health and all that. But right now, without those systems, I'm not quite happy with vehicles. But theoretically, if those systems work, vehicles are perfect. I mean, the base rules for vehicles are great in a sense that we can stat basically any vehicle, and it works like literally any vehicle. You want to slap rockets on a tank? Sure. You want to put artillery on a tank chassis? Sure. And it's real easy to do, and everything works with it. And we have a system to calculate its cost. However, I'm also not happy with the cost calculation system. Actually, I'm getting more happy with the cost calculation system as time goes on. A little bit. I have slight problems. We're not here for that. I'm sorry. As you know, when I start talking about Galactic Requiem and game design, or just literally any part of Galactic Requiem, I'll go off on a tangent on it because I mean, I enjoy what I do. But we're not here for that. We're here for Solo Sunday, even though it's not Sunday. We've been over that too a million times. But you know, we're here for dice, not for me talking about how I love the vehicle system, or how I like this, or how I like that, or the specifics of how power armor works. Which, I mean, as you know, I could go on for hours about Galactic Requiem, about the lore, about the system that it works on for the dice game, about the factions, about literally anything. Anyway, once more, it's not what we're here for. Not today. That's for World Building Wednesday, which is actually more for world building than talking about rules, but that's what we do on World Building Wednesday mostly. But we've been getting more into the world building. Okay. So, I mean, let's be honest, we don't have Impress. However, give me half a second. Um, See, now I'm conflicted, not about what's going on right now. In general, before I said I assured myself I would take the running of solo Sundays, or, today, slowly. Not just today, but like our solo tabletop RPG streams. I'd take it a bit slower and not try and rush through things. But I also feel bad because, I mean, I don't know. I, personally, am fine with things being slow. But I feel bad for you all because I'm like, you probably want to see the shooting or the talking or. I mean, I'll be honest. I believe y'all want to see the shooting and the action and the jumping over things and the gunfights. But I don't know. I mean, I'm fine with everything. I don't know what you all want. I just like doing what I do. I should probably talk or something. I'm silent because I'm just trying to open a file and look for the right section. Which is basically going over to waiting for the program to actually load, going over to the index, clicking on Impress, loading up the bookmark, jumping to the bookmark, and checking. So, in your average situation, an influence check does not take an untrained penalty. There are very rare cases where it does, but in like 99% of cases, you're probably not taking a untrained penalty with Impress. Influence, which is a sub-skill, we can even take 10 or take 20, apparently. Nope, that we're looking at persuasion, because we'd want to convince the person to not do the thing, which we can still take 10 or 20. Persuasion is a sub-skill of Impress. So, we could also use bribe, which is nice, but I don't think we'll be doing that. But we can take 10 or 20. Theoretically. I'm checking the specific rules on when and how that's specifically allowed. Hmm. That's a tough one. Technically, technically, we might not be able to take 20. That the enemy might be able to roll resolve against us, in which case we'd have to roll normally. Which is at a +0? No. It's at a -1 for us. Our charisma is terrible. I think we rolled our stats. Should have taken the package. Not even the standard package, the alternate standard package. Then we wouldn't have 18 decks, though. The alternate standard package, I believe, it's been a long while. I believe sets your two lowest scores at 10 and 10, I believe. I could be wrong about that. I mean, we already have the book open. We might as well check. It takes just a half a second. Yeah, the standard package is 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11. The alternate package is not actually in this book. It's in the NPC's book. Luckily, we have that loaded. It's not two tens. It's 16, 15, 14, 14, 12, 10. Basically getting rid of the 11 to make it a 10, getting rid of the 11, making it 10, boosting the other one to a 12, and 14, 14 instead of 14, 13, and so forth. But, in short, this is what we have. It's not like we can change that. Not easily. Not easily at all. We'd need a few $100,000. Probably more. I forget the rules. So if we wanted to, side tangent, my apologies. If we wanted to edit our stats, we'd need a lot of money. A lot of money. If we wanted to upload our brain and download it into a new body with custom built stats, I believe that's cheaper. I'd have to double check our rule book for that. I think that might be cheaper than restatting, but I'm not sure. But yeah. Let's see. Enough of this. What will we do for a day? Well, we spent one day preparing, getting healed, getting our stuff repaired. It's the day before the race, so we should actually head down there. I'll be honest, like, if it's the day before, we should head down there, see whether we can't convince them the day before the race instead of the day of the race. So we'll rest for the rest of the day that we're healing and all that. Then we'll head out the next day, the day before the race. So, hopping on our hoverbike and heading all the way out to the racetrack, which is near the outskirts. If you want to know, is this 10 or 1? This is 10, unfortunate. I was hoping it would be the 1 scale. On the 1 scale, the racetrack is a single, yes, on the 1 scale, the racetrack would be a single one of these because it's 1 kilometer map. On this scale, it's literally just a little dot in one of these, as these are 10-kilometer squares. Well, hexes. Anyway. I suppose let's grab the token real fast. Nope. This is the networking maps for datanet networks. You know, if you so there's normal hacking, which you've seen us do with the car, which is simple roll the dice. Well, multiple dice, double check, see what the enemy does. Theoretically, hackers can also do their things, but there's not a map per se, because it's just line of sight. If you're going deep in the net, into network nodes, or you're projecting yourself long distance, Well, technically, you can project yourself long distance into a camera network if you have access. And then, honestly, like, technically, we don't treat it like this, but if you project long distance, you would find a network, and if you can hack into the network's cameras and you have access to the cameras, then you just treat it as normal hacking, that is. But say you want to attack a network, you go into basically like one of these. And they can be big, like you can have full scale maps, but basically just network scale with little network icons that mean things, you know? Well, I mean, if you don't know, suppose we can find them, you know? CPU processing, connector processing, core control, limited control, tier 1 control, security control, memory, dense memory, code gates, hack AC gates, mind AC gates, side gates, walls, access points, connector points, virtual area connections, files, entities, remote control, display, vehicle, bot, etc., etc. Of course, here we have a ship network. This is just a standard network. Very simple data, basically very simple computer data pad network. A more complex network. A ship network. It's not a complete ship network, I'll be honest. This is a overall ship network. This is where you would basically access overall ship controls. Of course, these access points, there should be more of them, I should place them around. But access points basically connect you to additional levels. For instance, as you can see, there's no CPU or processing on this in this area because you would go to other levels to acquire that. And there's different ship systems and so forth you could go to. And basically that's data fortresses and all that. Which you can build how you want within rules. There are certain rules for building fortresses. For instance, the amount of gates you can have. The, well, there's no there's a technical limit to the amount of doors you can have. But basically, behind a certain amount of doors, you have to have a certain processing tier. For instance, after you get through the maximum amount of normal hack AC, you must have a hack AC control point. If you get behind mind AC, you must have a certain control point. If you want users to be able to access things without having to go through gates, you have to have control points. They can be limited control points, but and there's entire rules for building fortresses. Basically, if you want people to have access to things without requiring passwords and so forth, you need to have it in public areas. If there's passwords, you can have passwords on things, but that's on things, and there's like higher tier control, admin access, and full-on server control and all that to get it to all work. So for instance, theoretically, you can access memory from here, but you wouldn't be able to like edit core memory. I mean, you could theoretically, depending on what access is given, but like you don't have access to necessarily all the memory, only what you're given access to from a limited control. But if you were to get in here, you could just access anything, like they can't stop you at that point, and so forth. This, however, is not the most secure network, let's be honest. You can theoretically cut through walls. And with this network, you would theoretically only need to cut through one wall. The thing about cutting through walls is it activates defenses. Well, you see this network, you'd have to cut through multiple walls to even get into the processing. However, Well, no, you just need to cut through multiple walls to get. But cutting through a wall activates defenses and basically alerts the system, and there's all sorts of rules and so forth. But it is more expensive and more difficult to have a device with far larger of a area. Area is affected by your how much you're spending on, and how powerful your device is, how much memory is dedicated to it all, and like computers. Anyway, that's a tangent because we accidentally clicked on the wrong map. We're looking for. Nope, this one. This mission's really not worth it. I'll be honest, it's not. If you're wondering why I say that, it's simple. It's very simple. This mission pays us, well, is likely to pay us, assuming I can open the right file. Here we are. This mission is like $1,000, 500 to 1,000. And I quote, intimidate or attack an unimportant individual, 500 to 1,000. Actually, this person's like technically important for being very technical. I say important not in a sense of like exceptionally important, but what we're doing is a bit more than intimidating somebody for someone else. This could arguably be in the range of 1,000 to 5,000 credits because we're convincing somebody to throw a race for presumably very nefarious reasons. So theoretically, it could be argued to be in the up to 5,000 category. So, it really also depends. If we accept a contract, we're paid what the contract is paying. If we're hired, things work a little differently. Because, if somebody's like, I want to hire you for this contract, theoretically, you can be paid, like they'll likely be willing to pay you what you're charging. Not necessarily fully willing, but, let me put it this way. If a gang is putting out a contract to, say, assault someone, they're going to probably be like, we'll give you 100 credits to jump somebody and just start beating the shit out of them. But if somebody's like, hey, you are an expert merc, what's your rate? Then you're likely to get paid your rate, Given the fact that we just accepted a contract, we're likely not going to be paid what we're worth. Which is, believe it or not, 50 to 100 credits an hour. Which sounds like a lot, but it is a lot. But you learn all this is a former military individual turned mercenary and could, which is 50 credits an hour, could be considered special operations, could be, or could at least charge that amount. Not because she's skilled at that or anything, just from the sheer fact that she's a caster. She can do magic, therefore, that automatically is worth an exceptional amount. Casters are rare, exceptionally rare. Let's see. I should have negative modifiers. I shouldn't. Maybe? I'm not sure. I'm looking at the mercenary pay chart. And there's a, for calculating custom costs, there's a multiplier. But the multiplier is only positive. There's no negative multiplier. But I'm not sure if there even should be a negative multiplier. No, I don't think there should be a negative multiplier. Yeah. Because you would just be paid your standard per hour rate then, yeah. There's one other thing I want to check. Sorry, my apologies. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, just double checking the rules. I say double checking the rules. I mean, I am double checking them, but I wrote those rules, so, you know. And not just partially, those are mercenary pay as well. It's completely custom. I mean, we go on standard rates, but calculating how much you should be paid is a custom thing we made based on difficulty of task and all that. Okay. Technically, like, sorry, let's actually see how much we theoretically would be charged. Not be charged, but be valued at. We are very lucky. Our rates, our new rate system is a bit higher. A bit, sorry, not higher, lower than our old system. So, technically, we should be paid. Like, if we were being specifically contracted for this, well, no, it is illegal. It is relatively legal, which applies a modifier. Yeah, 500 to 1,000. So that's probably what we're getting paid, somewhere between 500 to 1,000. Even if it is slightly illegal. I'm not sure where I got. I forget my logic for 1,000 to 5,000. Probably because we're a caster or something. No, no, it's because the person was not technically. I mean, they're not. It's not like they're super important. So yeah, it doesn't specify what unimportant individual classifies as. But I suppose this is technically just standard illegal work. Anyway. Hmm. They're not going to let us drive over into here. So, pulling up at the racetrack after traveling probably a while on our hoverbike, we will head to the surface of the world instead of the few stories down we usually are, and then head to the location. Driving through the city, there's guards about, troops around loosely, and a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? Well, just people going about their days. There are. It's like a normal city. Let's be honest. I mean, it's a bit more dense. It is a mega city, if you will, to a degree, not exceptionally so. It just doesn't have as much urban sprawl as a normal city. But it has a lot of underground area and high density housing. But anyway, let's see. That's not always the case, by the way. Lots of worlds do have more residential, light residential urban areas and all that. I mean, if you know, the average population of a world in the galaxy, the very rough, I mean, we're not saying the literal average. We're not adding everything up and then going, here's the average, because that kind of math average gets immediately ruined because Dyson. The moment you have a Dyson spheres, the average is just messed up. What I mean by average is, of course, the majority of worlds you find out there are going to have around 10 to 20, usually around the tens of billions of people, 10 to 20 billion people on average. Usually a system capital has 20 or so billion, and a system normal world. So the capital world in a star system will usually have 20 billion, and your average world that's not the capital will have 10 billion. So um basically, you're looking at not really dense worlds. So you can have lots of residential and all that. Believe it or not, like even on your Elysia, for our Elysian viewers out there, Elysia is what we call Earth. Um, your world could easily, like, not necessarily super easily, but you can handle 10 billion people without having to resort to mega cities, like full on. Like, you don't you don't need all that for 10 billion people. You wouldn't see necessarily. I mean, cities grow. Don't get me wrong. People are often in cities, and thus cities would grow a bit larger, and rural towns would grow a bit bigger. But you would still have a lot of small rural areas and suburban cities. Suburban cities being just all the houses upon houses upon houses. Like, you're not going to lose that with 10 billion people. Sure, you might have a few more cities, but there's so much empty land on your planet that's still out there. Like, you're not going to pave over a world or only have high density housing with 10 billion people. Even with 20 billion people, you can fit 20 billion without much of that either. You might have a lot more. Like, I mean, in cities and around them, you're probably going to replace a lot of residential with high density housing, but you're still going to have residential Cs and all that with 20 billion. Might be a bit more crowded, but you're still going to have nature and all that with 20 billion. So, like, it's not all that much more dense, we'll be honest. But, of course, we have much higher density worlds here. We even have Dyson swarms and ecumenopolises. which are world cities completely paved over, which have like trillions of people, you know? So, hell, a few arcologies, well, I say a few, but arcologies, you can fit a lot of people, big arcology tower, and like even smaller, basically, footprint on the landscape. So, yeah. But, I mean, I'll be honest, 10 billion is a bit low for worlds. It's a bit low, but it's what we have in Galactic Requiem as the standard. Of course, that's for um, unimportant worlds. And that's not for a system. There are usually about, if you want to be technical, the capital world usually has about 20 billion. And then you have usually up to 10 sets of, if you don't have 10 worlds to colonize or more, you might, you'll still build up infrastructure till usually you have about 10 worlds worth of 10 billion, or about in total for a system, 100 to 110 billion, because of the 20 billion capital, 110 billion people in a system. So yeah, I mean, it's not a lot by physics standpoints, but it's what our standard is, except for capitals. Your subsector capital is going to have a lot more. Your system capital has 20, then your subsector capital, then your national capital, and so forth. And you can have high density hub worlds, basically, because you have multiple subsector capitals. But even other than those subsector capitals, you're going to have multiple capitals in different systems, and theoretically you can build up far higher than that's not a cap, you know? But generally, it's detrimental in the way we work our system to have too much pop on a world. You can have high pop areas, but you're going to have loyalty penalties, which makes it hard to use those worlds. Like, you're still going to get paid by them, but convincing them and getting them to not have problems gets harder and harder the more people you have. So, you can have, like, we have full-on high-density worlds with, like, 50 billion, 100 billion, trillions even. But, you start running into issues. Sure, one might say environmental issues. No, no. Yeah, you have to eventually start paying for keeping the environment working. You have to eventually put some budget towards keeping the environment working. If you're all on one world, you know? But also, you're going to have to. I mean, it's not like it's super hard. It's just going to be small bits of your budget, I'll be honest. It's not like it's a lot. But getting people to agree, managing such a large populace, that kind of stuff starts, we start degrading your ability. Not significantly, but it's just not ideal. But at least, at least, we have the average world at 10 billion. I've been over this before. Lots of settings are like, oh, a colony world. This world's been colonized for 100 years. It has 5,000 people on it. It's like, what? What? Or in some settings, it's this world's been colonized for even longer than 100 years. This world's been in existence as a colonized world for years and years and years and years and years and years. 100,000 people. What? What are you talking about? That's less than a city. On the entire world, it's like technically what we count the population of a city. Like, if you want to be classified as not a town, you need at least 100,000 people. Like, so your world has a city on it. No, it's a colonized world. It has multiple locations. So it's So it doesn't even have a city on it. It's just, I mean, do you know how ridiculous that is as a population number? Do you know how ridiculous a population number of 100,000 on a world is? In the medieval era, before the huge population booms of industrialization, hell, let's go back further. In the Roman era, there was, I believe, I don't know the exact numbers, but there were millions upon millions, hundreds of millions of people, if I recall correctly. Because I remember, like, the Roman Empire had like 70 million people at its height, or something like that. If I recall correctly, like they had 70 million people at its height, and that's just the Roman Empire, not counting the other nations and empires out there. Like, these things where it's like, oh, hey, there's, let's even be generous, 1 million people on this world. You're not even reaching pre-industrial population numbers on your world. What are you talking about? Your world has nobody on it, basically. It's all wilderness. What do you, no. And several settings and systems and things fall for this. Even one of my favorites, Starship Troopers. Oh yeah, if you didn't know, Starship Troopers, the United Citizens Federation, has colonies. Not just, I mean, yeah, if you know the base, um, the base movie, they mention a few colonies, and you see like a few worlds very underdeveloped. No, 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 no. They actually have like real colonies in the setting with like a few thousand and up to, I believe some of the most populated worlds have like 1 million, 2 million or so. But still, super low populations. Traveler, super low populations on the majority of their worlds. And Star Wars, super low populations on the worlds. I mean, you know, like, other than Coruscant, I suppose, which is in Ecumenopolis, a world city. They're at least somewhat, I believe, accurate in the population. I believe it's been a while since I looked, but I believe they have like 1 trillion people or so, which is like technically somewhat accurate for an Ecumenopolis, I believe. But a lot of their worlds are like a few thousand people. It's like, what? Same with same with Stargate. Same with a lot of things. It's like these colonies are exceptionally small. If you've been in space for hundreds of years, if you have, okay, I can understand. I can understand if you have slower than light travel and you send a colony ship. I'm still going to complain, and here's why. If you have slower than light travel, you're not sending a single colony ship with a few thousand. No, no, you're sending a colonization fleet of thousands of ships to colonize it with millions of people. Millions of people. Okay? That's just that's just what's going to happen. You're not going to be like, oh, a single colony ship to colonize it. No, you're going to want returns. You're going to want a sustainable colony, and people are going to want to live there, more than likely. So you're going to have millions. Well, what if it's the first colony? Well, if it's the first colony and you have like actual ships and so forth, how many of you would want to go live in space? I mean, you can get millions. Like, it's, and of course, like, Sure, building ships might be expensive, but it's not gonna. If you're building colony ships, you're building them in space, and you're not. It's it's just ridiculous. Okay, you're gonna have millions upon millions of people, more than likely, at least a million, maybe half a million, but still. Okay, so if you have slower than light travel, I'll believe that you have a million, half a million, even 100,000. I'll be generous and say 100,000. You're probably going to send more colony ships. You're probably going to send more. Even if you have slower than that, you're probably going to send more. Okay? So, let's continue this logic. If you have FTL, why? Why? If you're going slower than light, sure. Building another ship, sending another ship all those years out there, which means you're more than likely going to have larger populations on the ships, more redundancy, more colonists, just in case. But if you have faster than light travel, why? Why is your colony so small? It makes zero sense. If your colony just, especially, especially in a setting in which ships are at all common, in a setting in which ships are at all common, you have no excuse to have such a low population on worlds. It's just dumb. Which, I mean, I believe that relatively new game, Starfield, does that too. I'm pretty sure their populations on their worlds are ultra small, which is also ridiculous. Because they have fast as light travel and starships that are relatively easy to procure. So why would your populations be so small? It's a constant in sci-fi, and it annoys me to no end. However, of course, we do have lesser population worlds here, but those are actually usually reason for that. The reason we have low population worlds, like I said, 10 billion is the average. Low population worlds you usually find in the frontier, or worlds that are slightly, somewhat hostile to life, but usually those even get colonized up to 10 billion. But frontier worlds outside of civilized space are hard to get to. FTL is super dangerous, so it's basically not an entire thing that works entirely 100% of the time. So, while ships are common, unless you're willing to go out there and colonize it, there's upsides and downsides. People will flee, people will leave in smaller groups. It's easier to get a smaller ship so you can have smaller populations out there in the frontier. So it's not like we don't have those smaller populations. It's just if you're anywhere in core space, or as we sometimes call it, civilized space, the populations are going to be larger. Then again, it's not like the frontier's all low pop. There are large populations in the frontier of the normal amounts and even Dyson swarms. But, once more, an average means there's higher and lower, but the average world is like 10 billion, so. Let's see. Sorry, that was quite a tangent. So, um, Arriving at the location, Juliana Aldis will, I suppose she'll park. I don't like being too far away from the vehicle, but we'll park in the parking area. The one that's meant for people. Then we'll make our way slowly towards the area we're not theoretically supposed to be in, which is the you're allowed to walk down here. You can theoretically walk this way, but you'll be questioned. But this is usually where the people go. You know, as we mentioned when we made the map, this is food and amenities and everything for watching. Same with over here. But to get over here, you usually would go around. This is where they do the actual preparation and work and all that to get things for the races. So, you learn all this will walk towards the buildings. Parking, she sees some people around. It's not filled, as there aren't a lot of, there's people around watching, you know, like citizens watching the race. But it's not like there's a big race going on, so that's tomorrow, so it's not like there's a lot of people there, but there are people there. But there are also the people who prepare here, preparing for the race. Yulana Aldis will approach the building. And we'll make a check because it's what we're supposed to do. So we can find our dice roller. Rolling a chaos die, and then 2d10. And the question is, are we stopped and questioned by, like anybody or security? First is chaos. 5, no chaos, I believe. I should double check that. I'm gonna check it on my end because it's just going to be easier to do that instead of finding the right button and closing the thing I already have open. So, here we are. The current chaos tier is 4, so no chaos. Now, yes, no. 12. Yes, we are stopped. But 12 is a yes, but, right? Just checking. Yes, 12 is within the yes, but category. So yes, we're stopped, but it's not by security, it's one of the people wondering what we're doing here as we've wandered into the more so facilities and offices area. Let's see. Admittedly, not entirely prepared. We are earlier than usual, as I said. Oh, of course, the other day, yesterday, we did stream Trepang Squared 2, however you want to say it. It was quite fun. But what we were going to play, I just noting because my 2 test videos that didn't work out when I was trying to get it to run. We were going to play, originally, Battle Engine Aquila. If you didn't know, it's uh, it's an old classic game. I say old; it's not exceptionally old of a game. I think it was on the Xbox, the original one, but it was quite fun. I have beaten it before, both on Xbox and computer. I wanted to play through the campaign of it, but unfortunately, I could not get it to work. If you want to know why, well, I'm not the best with electronics. My conscripts handle all that usually, and it turns out that the game is old. And while I can run it easily on the computer, the problem lays in resolution. Specifically, when I launch the game, it changes the resolution. And basically, our stream here, that's what I'm looking for. Our stream here is not designed to be at that resolution. While it does appear on screen and it does stream technically, for some reason, I appear in the middle of the screen. Not sure why, not sure how. I suppose I could stream it with just me not on the stream. But I mean, as an Imperial Lord, that's insane. Stream a game without me here on the screen? Crazy. I suppose we could. I'm not as egotistical as other Imperial Lords. But, you know, um, so yeah, had issues with the resolution, so instead we did Trepang. I'm quite glad we did. It's fun. So we'll do that some more, sometime. Next time we play a video game with a miscellaneous stream. So, 1 second. Let me turn off a thing over here. There, that's better. Admittedly, I realize an error in my plan of starting early. The error in my plan of starting early is that I usually have lunch, or at least I usually try to have lunch before stream. As we started exceptionally early, I didn't. Unfortunate. Let's see. So, an individual will step out of one of the shops, buildings. I think they're shops. I think we'll consider them. Hmm. Hmm. No. Yes. Maybe. Perhaps. Not sure. But this individual will step out and ask what we're doing here. We're not. This is a. This area is not. You're not supposed to be in this area. The individual will state to Juliana Aldous, standing there in her heavy combat armor, with her weapons. Juliana Aldous will look at this individual. Juliana Aldous will look at this individual and she'll just say, "Yes, I am." And just stare at this individual for a good couple of seconds. Probably could have gone about this better, probably could have been more diplomatic, probably could have said something neat. But no, Juliana Aldous, with her lack of social skills, will just look at the individual and say, "Yes, I am," and stare. um, let's see. I'm actually going to bring up the complex chart for this for fun. Because I don't think the normal chart has rules for this. Here we are. This individual is giving them a couple of traits so we know how they'll react. Ooh, not ideal for them. Their attribute behavior is randomly generated as soul, meaning their primary interaction is to discuss and feel, and their approach is emotional. It's not ideal for them. I don't think Yulana all this is going to be discussed out of her objective here. Okay, what's the other one? Checking. Hmm. Okay. We are currently, sorry, going through the books. The charts are a little complex in figuring out exactly what they mean at any given time. Okay. That is very not ideal for them. They are additionally a mediator. They wish to avoid conflict, avoid acting. Okay? And in this situation, they are faced with not ideal situations, for them at least. Okay. They will, given their style, they will attempt to ask Juliana Aldis, like, she'll say yes, she is, and stare at them. They'll basically respond with, you're not part of the crew in this area specifically for what's the word I'm looking for personnel who work here and all that. We're not supposed to have individuals in this area, and he's gonna start trying to explain. Yulanaldis is gonna no, Yulanaldis is gonna interrupt the individual and say, do you know where? And then the name of the driver she's supposed to find is the being interrupted. The person will stammer for a second and go, Um, I don't think I can tell you that, and Juliana Aldous will just walk past. I mean, this individual's not acting in a way that's preventing Juliana Aldous from moving. So, I mean, you know, doesn't have the info. Not her problem. Admittedly, could be a terrible idea. Hilarious, but terrible. As we make our way into the facility proper, anyway, my genuine apologies. I, unfortunately, have to go. I have to go do some stuff. Also, probably want to grab some food before that. My genuine apologies for the exceptionally short solo Sunday. We did start earlier because we had things to do, but I also didn't take into account that I had things to do before that would come up. My apologies. We'll get back to this probably. We'll try and get back to this before next solo Sunday. We'll see how it goes. We will have World Building Wednesday on Wednesday, probably, unless we do this on Wednesday, which we might do. I'm not sure yet, but my genuine apologies. I should fix my planning a little bit better next time. My apologies. So, we'll call it there. We're not going to award XP for that. We'll try and pick this up soon. Thank you for stopping by once more. Genuinely, my apologies. And I hope you have a great day. As always, I've been your host, Casimir Basilius.